in one medrash it says it's considered like you're involved in building the temple. Another place it says that my house is not destroyed. Basically what it means is, as the Rebbe teaches us in a talk, very interesting word, that not only it is like the sacrifices, when a person studies about the sacrifices, it's considered like they brought it. The Rebbe says here it's more yet. It's not just as if they brought it, it's they are accomplishing that the house is not destroyed. So this is the unique quality and experience of studying about the temple. So therefore, the topic tonight will be in regards to the temple, speaking about the basic vessels that were in the temple, although in general they pulled out every day 93 vessels. 93 instruments or vessels, things that they used for the temple. Forks, other things that they needed for the sacrifices. So there were 93. I think others connected with the word mogen, which means a shield. The numerical value of mogen is 93. So this is basically what took place in the temple. And it was on a daily basis, twice a day, to the extent that when Mashiach will come, we will start our service with the ash of the previous day's sacrifice. So the question is how? How is it? Where will that be? Who did it? The answer is that the prophet Elijah, the prophet, in a spiritual sense, he brings every day on the mountaintop, he brings two sacrifices, one in the morning, one in the evening. And that's what it's mentioned, and one of the Kabbalists writes it in one of his Sfarim, in his book, Megala Amukis. His name is Rab Menachem Azariah Mipanu. He writes it that Eliyahu Hanavi brings every day. So every day he's the one that covers it. So therefore Eliyahu Hanavi from the last one will be the physical. We will start the work in the temple. Basically, which is also praying in the temple and everything else that took place in the temple. Everything people needed, people gave birth. They came to thank the Almighty. The same way that today a person goes through a miracle. Other people have a custom, women, that when they give birth, they go to this shul, they say the blessing there, for a group of men, that just the blessing alone. It's basically many different things that were done in the temple. In the temple itself, there were many different things, but generally, they consisted of two different groupings. One was the structure of the temple, and one were the main vessels that they used in the vessels or the structures that were placed in the temple. To speak first about the structure of the temple had a roof, walls, and a floor, everything like an ordinary, like a house. There's only one difference between the temple and the sanctuary. The sanctuary was put up in the desert. The sanctuary was mainly as the world consists of 4 sections. There is Daimim, Tzemeach, Chayim, Medaber. Daimim is the silent world, element world, the world that's like stone, dust. Then there is the plant world, then there's the animal world, and then there's the people world. In the Mishkan, in the sanctuary, the primary parts of the structure were from wood. On the other hand, in the temple, it was from stone. Stone is a level lower than the level of wood, because wood is tzemeach, it's growing. When you look at it as a sign of life, you come today, you come in a week, you see there's a difference. When you look at the stone, you don't see any sign of life, although there is a sign of life. There is an energy of life that sustains it. So this is the difference between the Mishkan and the Mikdash, the sanctuary and the temple. So the question is why? Why is it that in the temple, which is which was longer than the Mishkan. The temple was for 410 years, the first temple, the second one 420 years. What is the significance that it's dafka from stone? The Rebbe explains two features that express the uniqueness when it is from stone. One, this shows that there's no limitations in the godly energy, that it can permeate even in the stone, that the stone becomes sacred. The stone becomes a migdash, a holy place. And this is his dwelling place. Shlomo Melech is asking, the King Shlomo is asking, he says, Hashamayim u'shmei Hashamayim leichal kalucha. He says, heaven and the heavens of heavens cannot contain you. And this house, Afki Abayis Azel, this house is going to do it. Or as others explain, it's not a question but a fact. He's stating a fact. This house will do it. Yeah. And as Chassidus asks the question, what is the format, the technique, how godliness became one with this physical house? In what sense was it? How could we explain it in a philosophical way? So here comes a controversy between the Rambam and the Ramban. Rab Moshe, the Maimonides, and the Nachmanides. And they argue how could we explain the idea of the Mishkan and how the Migdosh, the temple, how it became a vessel, technically speaking. One of them explains that it didn't become a vessel, that it was close tightly a vessel, like one with another connected together, but it was a vessel sort of like a hand that is writing and recording in writing an intelligent subject. When the hand is writing an intellectual subject, the hand does not understand the subject. The hand is a channel through which the mind could express in writing its intellectual subject. It is just passing through. It is a channel through which it passes. Person, thank God, has a healthy hand, healthy fingers, and therefore he can record it in writing. Another opinion is that it's not so, that it's more tightly connected. It is connected in the sense like the mind understands intellect. They become one. To the extent that the intellect, the more a person thinks, the more the mind becomes refined. That's the impact that the intellect has on the mind. So this is the difference. How closely connected was godliness with the temple? In what sense was it? How close was this merge? Another explanation is, why is it, and how is it, what does it signify that it was stone? This shows the truth of godliness, that even the lowest level acknowledges godliness. That even the stone becomes a vessel for godliness. So this is basically two explanations what the temple signified being from stone. One, how godliness could permeate everything to the lowest levels. And two, how the lowest levels express the uniqueness of godliness, the truth of godliness, the essence of godliness. And this is basically the difference between the sanctuary and the temple. The sanctuary is something that expressed godliness from above to below. Above to below, so it was more above, like this. The roof, the ceiling of the Mishkan, of the sanctuary, was basically from different wool, from things that were coming from the animal world. The walls were from trees, cedar trees, from the shittim, from cedar trees. The ground was doimim, dust, the silent world. On the other hand, the Mishkan, the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, the priority was basically doimim. The concentration was on stone and dust. on the lowest level in the creation, on the lowest section of the creation. Then came the levels of then there were beams of wood that were put in there, but basically the walls were stone. It was just that these walls, cedar, actually, Erez means cedar trees, were basically just supporting, were just secondary to the walls, supporting the walls. So therefore, the priority in the temple was basically this stone, showing how it permeates everything. The windows of the temple were made in such a format that the light comes out, because it's a light that came out of the whole world. The sacrifices that were brought in the temple, especially on the Yom Tov of Sukkot, were a number of 70. Numbered 70. He says, what 70? He says the 70 basically correspond to the 70 nations. To give them support, to give them blessing. And as it says in the Medrash, that if they would know, the 70 nations would know how much the temple protected them, they would protect the temple from all sides. Okay, now we're going on to the foundation of the temple. The foundation of the Mishkan, and which is the first temple, and then later the Mikdash had its design. The walls of the Mishkan, of the sanctuary, were basically based on sockets. They're called sockets, adonim. They were made like two for each beam, and half went into one part. Actually, I'm sorry, there were 20 kroshim, there were 40 adonim. 40 for 20 beams. So each one had two adonim. Adonim were basically the sockets on which the walls were supported. They were the foundation. They were the foundation not only of the walls, but the ceiling, because everything was dependent on that. What is the foundation of something? Foundation of something is basically the nucleus on which everything stands. Where everything begins, where everything stands. And therefore, it's interesting that the contributions that they gave for the Mishkan, for the Adonim, some of them they used for the sockets, for the material, for the Mishkan, were basically only the first year. The contributions for the Adonim were made only the first year. So this will be understood by understanding what is the Adonim, what do Adonim signify. Adonim signify the foundation. By every person there is a foundation. The foundation is the beginning of the day. The beginning of the day when a person wakes up, they thank God. They woke up alive and healthy. They say Moida Ani. The Moida Ani is basically the commitment to Melech Chai V'Kayim, to the living God. And this is what a person says before they wash their hands. Before they remove the impurity that came upon them when they slept, because their soul left them.